Hello, my dear students, and the rest of the learners. Welcome to part 8 of an 11-part series of tutorials in word processing using Microsoft Word. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about how to create tables and perform various activities within the tables. That is, tables creation and manipulation. My name is MemGM, or you can simply call me Emily Swap. How do we create tables? And what is a table? A table is a Microsoft Word feature that is made up of rows and columns that is used to organize and enhance the display of numerical and statistical data within a document. A table is made up of three main components, which are a cell. A cell is an individual box in the table that is an intersection between a row and a column. A row, on the other hand, is an horizontal arrangement of cells. Number 3 is a column. A column is a vertical arrangement of cells. This is an example of a table. This table has rows and columns. This one, the one which I'm highlighting, is called a row, while this one is called a cell, while this one is called a column. So that's what a cell is, a row is, and a column is when working in tables. You can create a table by clicking on Insert menu, then clicking on Table, after which you can create a table by performing any of the following tasks. You only need to master one of the ways, because with adequate knowledge with one of those ways of creating a table, then you can be successful in working and manipulating tables. So the first method is by selecting the number of rows and the columns from the table menu by moving your mouse pointer over them, and then you click to have the table inserted on your document. This is mostly applicable when you are creating tables with a few rows and the columns. The second method of creating a table is by clicking on Insert Table under the table menu, and then you enter the number of rows and the columns for your table, while specifying the out-of-it behavior, and finally you click on OK. This method is good because it gives you the opportunity to be able to have a personal decision as to how many rows and the columns you need for your table, depending on the amount of data that you want to accumulate or accommodate within a table. The third method is drawing your table by clicking on Draw Table from the table menu, whereby your mouse pointer will change to a pen. Then you draw your table outline by dragging the mouse pointer. You then fill in the table with the rows and the columns by dragging the pointer as you would draw using a pencil. This option is usually good in situations where you want your table to have a certain kind of look, where maybe you want some rows to be bigger than others, some columns to be bigger than others, to have some lines being horizontal, vertical, etc. So it gives you room to be able to create a table with the look that you want. The fourth method or way of creating a table is by pointing on quick tables, and then you click on the table format of choice, after which you can make use of the various tools and a design menu to make changes to the inserted table. This option is good, especially when you want a table to be inserted that is already having some form of format, so that you don't spend a lot of time creating those formatting styles by yourself. So if you want a table which already contains some kind of formatting, then using quick tables is a good option. As you can perform various tasks on any inserted table by making use of the tools under the layout and design menu. In other words, regardless of the method that you use to insert your table in your document, you can be able to perform various tasks on the table that you have already inserted by making use of the tools menu or the tools that will appear under the layout and design menu. Once your table has been inserted, the next thing you need to do is to enter data into the table. So to enter data into any cell, you just click inside that cell and type the data. The following is a demonstration on how to create or insert a table in the document called swap details. So to insert a table in this document called swap details, you first of all need to click at the position where you want to insert your table. So you click at the position inside your document where you want to position your table. And then once you have done that, you click on Insert Menu. So let's click on Insert Menu. Once you click on Insert Menu, you will see Table. Therefore, what you need to do is to click on this button under the tables. So you click on Table. From this list here, we have the first option where you can be able to select the number of rows and the columns that you want for your table. For example, if I want 5 rows, so I'll select 5. I'll select 5 rows. I'll select 5 rows. So those are 5 rows. And then for columns, so if I want a table composed of 5 rows, and for columns, what I'll do is I'll just move my mouse over the number of rows and columns that I want to include in my table. Once you have moved your mouse over those rows and columns, you just click your mouse button once. That's the left mouse button once, like that. Once you have done that, you see your table will have been inserted in your document. Once you have done that, you move on and you do your typing or enter data in your table. I will demonstrate how we enter data on the table once I have shown you the various ways of inserting the table. So that's one method. Let me undo so that I can be able to show you another method. So let's do another method or use another method. So you click on Insert menu, then click on Table. So the second method is to click on this option here, Insert Table. So let me click on Insert Table. Once you have clicked on Insert Table, there are some options that you need to fit on the Insert Table dialog box. So you need to specify the number of rows and the columns that you want. So I can have my 5 rows and 4 columns. So under number of columns, that is under table size, I can click this button and choose 4, or you just type 4 columns. Then under rows, you can just click inside here, delete any figure that is already there, and type your figure. So 5. So I want 5 rows and 4 columns. In that case, below here, you can see that we have what we call auto-fit behavior. If you want your columns to be fixed or to have a fixed width, you choose this option. If you want your table rows and columns to be adjusting themselves as you type, so that you don't need to have rows and the columns being of the same size, but depending on the content of the content you key in the cells, then you can choose auto-fit to contents. If you want your table to fit within your window that is open, you click on auto-fit to window. So for my case, let me click on a fixed column width so that my cells will be equal. And then you click on OK, this one. So let me click on OK. And my dear students and the rest of the learners, you can see that I already have my table, a similar table to the one which I have inserted using my first method. Let me undo this so that I can show you another way of inserting a table. So I'll still click on table, point on, or click on insert, then I click on table, this button under table, and then I'll use this other option, quick tables. As you can see, this option has already some pre-formatted tables. So you look at the one that has the format that you want, and then you just click on it. For example, let me click the one which reads calendar 2. So you just click and it appears. So if you're interested with this kind of a table, you just click it. And then, of course, you can make changes to the content inside. But mostly you choose one which is almost similar to the kind of tables you want to create. You can see the challenge with this method is that if I wanted my table to have 4 rows or 5 rows and 4 columns, you have to delete some of the rows and the columns. I will demonstrate how to delete rows and the columns later on in my presentation, and even how to enter data. So let me undo this option or this method or this table, and then I show you the other method. You click on insert, then click table, and then the other option is to draw table. So you click on draw table. Once you click on draw table, you will be able to see that there will be a change in my mouse pointer. There will be a change in my mouse pointer. Let's do it again. Click on draw table. Then if you look at my mouse pointer, it has changed. It looks like a pen. And therefore, you click at the point where you want to begin drawing your table. You drag your mouse button, for example, like that. And then You move down once while pressing your mouse button down, and you release your mouse button. Then from there, you can even add some more. I want to add another row here. So I'll click like that, and I drag and drop. I will continue that way. So I'll click here again, press down mouse button, and drag towards the edge. So I have 3 rows. Let me add another row using the same method. So those are 4 rows. And then I add another one using the same method. Good. So those are my 5 rows. But I want the 5 rows and the 4 columns. So I can click anywhere where I want my column to appear, the first column. Then while pressing down your mouse button, drag it downwards at that point. That's my first column. Then I draw another one. That's second column. Then while holding my mouse button down, I can draw another one. So you can see these are already 4 columns. The good thing with using this option, in as much as it takes time, is that you can be able to have your rows and the columns as per the size you want. Even if you want a bigger one, like I want to have a bigger row here, I can still have it. You can see. So that's the advantage with drawing. So that's how you draw. And then you can, of course, adjust rows and the columns manually using your mouse pointer, as I'll demonstrate later on in my presentation. So that's how you insert your table. Then the next thing that you do, or what I want you to note, is that once you have started to draw your table, you'll notice that we have under layout menu, we have very many tools that you can use while working with your tables. There are very many tools here. All these, including everything here. So all these tools can be used when working with the table. If you want to erase something, you use eraser. If you want to delete something, you use that one. If you want to insert automatic row instead of staying to draw, you click on insert row above, insert row below, insert left, insert right, split the cells, split the table, etc. So we shall be using some of these in my presentation. So if you want to type your text in your table, you click anywhere within the table and then you write. For example, I can type the following, that the following, the following, the following, the following are the following are the costs for getting PDF documents that have been used to repair content in many swap channels. This is just an example. And then you can have the first column, for example, reading, unit, unit, then unit, price, and then here I can have total, or I can have a number of units. Then here, I can have total cost. And then, for example, I can type at a unit here. I can have introduction to ICT. One copy is Kenya shillings 200. That's one copy. And then if you want 4 copies, it means the total cost will be 800 Kenya shillings. Then I can have another one like rating systems. One unit or one copy is Kenya shillings 500 per copy. Kenya shillings 500. Can even have it as per copy. This one is per copy. So because I'm referring per copy, I can have here as per copy. And then I remove the repetition of the ones per copy. That way. So if somebody wants 3, that will be in Kenya shillings 1,500. So this text of mine is already formatted in a way. So let me remove formatting. You click on home menu, and then you can see it is italicized. So I remove italics. I'll teach how to format the table later. So as usual, you click on save to save your work. So that's how we create a table and enter text into it. So another activity that we can perform in a table is to edit the contents in the table. So editing a table is to make changes to the properties of a table after you have created the table using the tools found in the tables menu, just as I've illustrated. The 5 main ways of editing a table are resizing rows and columns. B is inserting rows and columns. 3 is deleting rows and columns. 4 is merging rows and columns. 5 is splitting rows and columns. How do you resize rows and columns? And what is resizing? Resizing is to adjust the row height or the column width in order to fit text within the cells in that row or a column. To adjust the row height or column width, just position the mouse pointer on that row or column boundary until the mouse pointer changes to an arrowed cross. Then drag the boundary to the required size. So this is an example of how to resize rows and columns for the table that we have created in the document called ML Swap Details. As you can see, this is our table. And with a close look at this table, you can see that some of the rows and the columns are larger than the size we want. Like this row is quite wide. Its height is big in comparison to these others. So we can adjust it so that it becomes smaller. So what you do is you point on the edge for the row or column that you want to adjust, like what I have done. And then once it changes to that shape, you can drag it upwards. If you find it's not dragging upwards, you can click anywhere, meaning there's an extra space, and then you can press backspace, like what I've done. If I want, for example, to readjust this column seems to be a little bit bigger. So this column seems to be bigger in comparison to this one, and this column, and this column. So I can adjust it so that it becomes smaller. So I'll click or I'll point on this edge here, as you can see, and then I can drag it inwards that way, up to there. And then you release your mouse button. So as you have seen, I have resized this row and I've also resized this column. So that's what you do. That's how you resize rows and the columns. You can also resize, like you can see, this text is wrapping within my cell and I want it to fit in one line. So I will point my mouse on this edge and then I can drag it that way, that way. Then you can also see that this column has my text scrolling. I want it to be within one line. So I can point there on that line, then you drag. While pressing your mouse button down, you drag until you get the size you want that way. Then you release. I can also readjust this column because it has become a little bit smaller and adjust it. So I'll hold my mouse button down and drag. Once it is of the size I want, I can release. If I want this text, it transfers it to fit within one line and the operating systems to fit within one line without scrolling within the cell, I can readjust this column. So I'll point on this line, this one, anywhere. And once my mouse pointer changes to that shape, I can drag until my ones fit within one line, and then I release. So you can see Introduction to ICT has now fit within one line and operating systems. Then from there, you can see this one is scrolling. I don't want this to occupy two lines. So I will point my mouse pointer on this edge here, and I can adjust outwards. Remember, you can also adjust the inwards. So you point your mouse button down on the edge. Once the shape changes, you press down your mouse button and then you drag until you get the size that you want. That way, then you release. Then I can also do the same to this other column. I will point on the edge here for the column whose width I want to adjust. Then I press down my mouse button and drag while pressing my mouse button down and then release. So that's my table. That's how you adjust rows and the column. Then you click on Save button to save your work. Then you can also insert the rows and the columns. If you find that the number of rows you have are not adequate, or number of columns that you need are not adequate, you can add more. So inserting rows and the columns is simply the task of adding new rows or columns to an already existing table. Rows can be inserted above or below the current row, while a column can be inserted to the left or right of the current column. To add rows or columns in a table, right-click in the row or column next to where you would like to insert the new row or column. Then point on Insert option. To insert a row, click on the row above or row below. To insert a column, click on the column to left or a column to right. So the following is a demonstration on how you can add rows and columns for the table in the document that you have already created called MLSwap details. So this is our table, and I would like to add some additional rows. So I want to add a row in between Introduction to ICT and Operating Systems. So I want to have a row in between here. So what I'll do is I'll click on, for example, this cell or anywhere within this row next to where I want to insert my new row. And then I'll press my right mouse button down. So I'll right click, then point on Insert. What do I want to insert? Is it a row or a column? It is a row. Do I want it to be below the row I have already clicked on or above the row in which I have already clicked? So I want it to be below Introduction to ICT so that it is in between Introduction to ICT and Operating Systems. So I will click row, insert rows below. And you can see that our new row has been inserted in between. So that's how you insert a row. If I want to insert a column, if, for example, I want a new column here so that I number it, like so that I can have a column with the heading unit number, then I can click anywhere in this first column. Then I press down my right mouse button. So that is right click. Then click on Insert. What am I inserting? A column. So is it going to be left to the column I've already clicked, or it is going to be right? So my column, I want it to be on the left side. So I'll click Insert Columns to the left. You can see I've already added an extra column. And then now I can type in here unit number. And then I can click on this other cell. Remember, you enter text in a cell by clicking on the cell. So I can type 1. I click on this other cell here. I type 2. I click on this other cell. I type 3. I click on this other cell. I type 4. And this other cell, I can type 5. So that's how you insert rows and columns into your table. And then you remember to always save your work. Another activity you can perform in your table is to delete rows, columns, or cells. Deleting is to remove rows, columns, or cells that you don't need from the table. To remove a row, cell, or a column from the table, right-click in the row, column, or a cell that you want to be deleted. Then click on Delete Cells. From the dialog box that will appear, select either Shift Cells Left, Shift Cells Up, Delete Entire Row, or Delete entire column. Then you click OK. To delete a table, in case you want to delete a table and its contents, the whole of the table, select the table, then click on Layout menu, then click on Delete, and then click on Delete Table. To clear the contents of a table, select the items you want to clear and press Delete key. The following is a demonstration on how to delete cells, rows, or columns for the table that we have already inserted in our document called ML Swap Details. So in this table, there are some rows and columns we can do away with. For example, I have this cell that I don't need. I have this row that I don't require. And I have these rows here that I also don't require. So I can delete them. So to delete this cell, what I need to do is I right click. I click inside it, then I right click. Then because I want to delete cells, I'll move my mouse pointer to delete cells. So I'll click on delete cells. So this dialog box for deleting cells will appear. Do I want to shift cells left? That is after it is deleted. Do I want to shift the others to occupy this space? Or shift cells up? That means, do I want, once I delete this cell, these other cells to move up once and occupy the deleted one? Or do I want to shift cells left? Do I want to move the content here to occupy the space for the cell I'll remove? Or do I want to delete the entire row or entire column? So you have to choose the option. So for me, I want, after I delete, the content in this cell to move towards this space. So what I'll do is I'll click on Shift Cells Left, and then I click OK. So you can see the cell which was next to it has been shifted to occupy the one I have deleted. And then, of course, I can now adjust this cell or this row so that it moves up to here. So what I'll do is I'll click on point on this edge. Then I'll drag it while pressing my mouse button down. And once I reach where I want, I'll release it. So I have adjusted the size of my row so that it's uniform with my other rows. What about if I want to delete a cell or a row? It's like I want to delete this row. So if I want to delete this row, I'll click anywhere inside that row, anywhere on any cell. So I'll click anywhere. For example, there, here, or anywhere. Then I'll right click. Click on delete cells. And then I'll click now on delete entire row. I'll click on that option and click on OK. You can see it has disappeared. What about if I want to delete these others? Now, I don't want to delete these others. They can remain. What about if, for example, I wanted to delete a column? Like assuming I don't want this column, what should I do? So you just do the same. You right click on it in any cell in that column, click delete cells, and then click on delete entire column and click OK. For me, or anyway, let's click and see. you can see even the heading has disappeared because the first row was like a single column. So it has also disappeared because I had already merged it. In other words, it was a single cell. So the single cell has been removed with a column. So let me undo, because I don't want that to happen. I was just demonstrating how to delete a column. So whenever you are deleting a column with one of the cells or with a set of merged cells, you have to be very careful because as you delete, even the one which is merged may disappear. So whenever you are doing deletion for cells in a table with merged cells, you have to be very careful. I'll demonstrate how to do the merging of the cells later. So that's how you delete the rows and the columns in your table. Another activity you can perform in your table is merging rows and the columns. That is combining the rows and the columns. So what is to merge? Merging is combining two or more cells in the same row or a column into a single cell. E.g., merging several cells horizontally to create a table heading. To combine cells, you select the cells to be merged. Then from the layout menu, you click Merge Cells. You can also merge cells by clicking on Eraser from the layout menu and then dragging the eraser over the cell dividers you want to remove. The following is a demonstration on how to merge cells, rows, or columns for the table in the document called MLSwap Details. So if you want to merge cells in this table, if you want to merge cells, what you need to do is to select the cells you want to merge. For example, if you want to merge this cell, if I want to merge these two cells or these three cells to form a single cell, what I need to do is I'll click on the first cell. While pressing my mouse button down, I'll drag it over to the cells that I want to merge. Once I reach the last cell, I will release my mouse button and then I right-click on the selected cells. That is, press my right mouse button down. Then I'll click on Merge Cells. Then you can click in on the table to remove selection. What about if I want to merge some cells in a column? What I will do is that I will select the cells in the column that I want to merge. For example, I can click on this cell I selected and drag my mouse towards cell number 4 or the cell with the label 4. Then I'll release my mouse button down. I right click my mouse button down. That's a right click. And then I'll click on Merge Cells. Then you can click in that cell or any part of the table to remove the selection. So that's how we merge the cells in a column or even in a row. So these ones are merged. So the whole of this is now being treated as a single cell. We have also merged these cells in a row. So these are merged cells. So that's what merging of cells in a table is all about. Another activity that we can perform in our table is splitting rows or columns. This is to subdivide a cell or cells into more or multiple cells in a table. To subdivide the cells, one, you select the cell or cells you want to split, and then click on Layout menu and click on Split Cells. Or you just right-click on the cell or cells you want to split after selecting them. Then specify the number of rows and the columns after you have clicked on Split. And you click OK. So the following is a demonstration on how to split cells, rows, or columns for the table in our document called MLSWAP details. For us to split cells in this table, for example, if I want to split this cell that we merged, if I want to split this cell that we merged, that is this one, for example, to have two columns, what I'll do is I'll click on the cell I want to split. Then I'll press down my right mouse button. That is, I'll right click on the cell. Then from this context sensitive menu, I'll click on split cells. From the split cells dialog box displayed, I can specify the number of columns and the number of rows that I want to split my cell into. So let me split it into 2 rows and retain it, have it as 1 column. So under number of columns, I can reduce it to 1. Then under number of rows, I can increase it to 2 by clicking on the up button or by typing. And then I'll click OK. So you can see our single cell has been split into 2 rows. What about if I want to split this cell into 3 rows and maybe 2 columns? So I'll right click on it, then click on split cells, and then 2 rows. So under rows, I'll increase it to 2. Under columns, I can make them 3. Then I'll click OK. See what has happened. So that's how we split cells. Assuming I want to split this one into maybe 3 columns, 2 rows. So I'll right click in on that cell, then I'll click on split, then 3 columns and 2 rows, like that. Or let me make them 3. Let me make them 3 rows, 3 columns. Then I'll click on OK. What am I being told? The number must be a divisor of 4. Why? Because we have how many rows? 1. We have what in there? 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, and 4 rows within the split area. So in that case, then I can adjust my number of rows to 2. And then I'll click OK. So you can see that's what we call splitting. So you can split your cells as you want. Always remember to click on save to save your work. And that's how you do splitting. Then just as we formatted text in my previous presentations, in my previous tutorials, you can also format your table. What is to format a table? This is making the table to be more attractive and with a more published look through the use of borders and shading. You can use all the text formatting options that we learned in our previous presentations to format the text within a table. Table auto-format is an automatic formatting feature that lets you choose border styles and shading. The following is an example of a formatted table or a timetable. So this is an example. You can see the enhancement in colors for some of the selected rows and columns. So to format a table, you select the table or sections to be formatted. Then from the design menu, click on either shading and select the color of choice, border styles, etc. Then you click OK if OK is available to apply the effects. This is because it depends with the version of Microsoft Word that we are using. The following is a demonstration on how to format the table in our document called MLSWAP details. So what are some of the formatting features we can apply in our table here? So if, for example, I want to change the color, or not the color, but the font type for my text, what I'll do is I'll click on design. But before I come to design, let us apply font types that we learned and font colors, text formatting. So I'll click on home menu. And then I will select my entire table. So how do you select the entire table? You can click on the edge of the table here. So you click on this edge here. You click. So that's how you select the entire table. And then from there, once you have selected your table, you can change font type here, just as we learned before. So let me click on Times New Roman. I can also alter my font size by clicking here. And then I can click 12. I can also make some of the text bold. So what I need to do is, like, for example, this heading, I can select this text and click on B for bold. If I want to center that text in this cell, I'll click on Align Center here, just as we did under text formatting. If I want to change this color of my heading here, I can click on this option here for text color. Then I can choose a color like that. Meanwhile, I can also perform other activities from the design menu. Note, my dear students and the rest of the learners, note that we are already working on design menu. Once I'm through with putting doing my normal formatting using the options under the format menu, we can also do other activities under table tools. Table tools. As you can see, once you click on the table, this menu will appear. So under table tools, under the table tools, you can click on design. Once you click on design, once you have clicked on design, you can do borders and shading. So if, for example, I want to have borders across my table, I can select the table and then click on borders here. I can click on borders. This option here, borders. So I'll click on the borders. Then you can decide the borders that you want. But I want to leave all these others, and I click on borders and shading. So click on borders and shading. Once I choose borders and shading for my table, I can choose the borders style that I want. For example, let me click this one. And then apply where? To the table, paragraph, or a cell. So I can choose apply to the table. And then I'll click on OK. So you can see that my table has already changed. It has already changed. What about if I want to change the border again? I'll select the table, then click on borders, click on borders and shading, and then I can choose something else, maybe page border. So click on page border. Now this page border will now apply to our page. So I'm not interested in page border. So I can click on cancel. But what about if I want to do shading to my table? So what I'll do, I can select the table, then under shading here, I can choose the shading that I want to apply on my table. So I'll select my table, then I click on shading, and then I can choose any color that I want to apply on my table. If you don't see the color you want, you can click on more colors. Choose one. I want this one. So click on it and click OK. So that's how you shade your table. But you can even shade specific cells. For example, the cell with unit number. So what I need to do is to click on that table, on that cell, or select the cell. And then I'll click on shading and choose a different color. For example, that one. I can also decide to shade the heading here so that it is of a different shade. So I'll click that, I click shading, and then I can choose a different color for my shading, like that one, and I click OK. So you can shade the entire table or shade specific cells or specific rows or columns. If, for example, I want to shade the one for the total, the entire column, I will select those cells that way. Then I'll click on shading. Then I can even click on more colors. I choose a color of my choice. For example, I can choose that one. Then I click OK. So that's how you can do your shading on your table. And that's how you also put the borders, or what we are calling table borders. Always remember to save your work by clicking on Save button. Another activity that we can do using tables is what we call table conversions. This is transforming either a table to text or text to a table. So converting text to a table, how do you convert text into a table? If you have already typed the text in your document and want to convert it into a table, what do you do? So you select the text that you want to convert to table. Then from the Insert menu, click on Table. Then click on Convert Text to Table. Then specify the number of rows and the columns for the table. Specify the auto-fit behavior so that your rows and the columns are adjusted as per the data that want to be placed in terms of rows and the columns. From separate text at, specify whether the table will be defined by paragraphs, commas, tabs, or other characters, depending on how your text has been typed. Then you click OK. If you want to convert table to text, you select the entire table, rows or columns you want to convert it to text. Then from Layout menu, click on Convert to Text. From there, specify how the text will be separated after conversion and convert the table to text. For example, with the paragraph marks, tabs, commas, etc. in the separated text width box. And then you click OK. So the following is a demonstration on how to convert text to a table and table to text in our document called MD Swap Details. So if you want to convert some text in this document so that it becomes a table, that is text to table conversion, this is what we do. Let's scroll and get a list that we want to convert into a table. For example, this text. If I have text like this one, and I want to convert it to a table, what I'll do is after typing my text, I will select my text. So let me select. I'll click at the beginning of the text I want to select and drag my mouse over it. And then once I reach the last one that I want to include in my selection for my table, I'll release the mouse button. From there, I'll click on Insert menu here. So I'll click on Insert menu. Under Insert menu, I'll click on Table. From there, I'll click on Convert Text to Table. So I'll click on Convert Text to Table. Once I've clicked on Convert Text to Table, from this Convert Text to Table dialog box, I'll specify the number of rows and the columns that I want. So already, by the look of this text, if you look at this text, you can see that already this text is in a single column. Or can be placed in a single column. And the number of rows are 4. 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows. So in that case, then, let's do some choices and see what will happen. So under number of columns, I can make it 1 column that way. Then number of rows, I'll leave them like that. Then I choose out of it content or out of it to content. Then I can start to separate my text by paragraphs, because each line is a paragraph on its own, and I don't want my text to be split into more columns than what I have as paragraphs. And then from there, I'll click on OK. Note, I've selected separate text at the paragraphs so that I detail my format. Then I'll click OK. So you can see we have been able to convert our text to a table. So this is our table. What about if we want to convert table to text? What do we do? So if, for example, I want to convert this text or this table now back to text, what will I do? I will select my table by clicking there. And then I'll click. Let's see, assuming you right click, what happens? It's going to be innovative or creative. If I right click on the selected cells, am I able to see convert a table to text? No. So what do we do? So once you have selected your text, then you proceed as follows. So once you have selected your table that you want to convert to text, you click on layout and the table tools. So let's click on layout and the table tools. So you click on this layout. Note, we have this layout and we have this layout that appears under table tools once you have selected your table. For that reason, after I have selected my table, I'll click on layout, this one. From there, you can see there are several tools. So once I've selected that, I'll look for convert text or convert table to text. So I'll pick this one. I'll click on this one, this button here, or this tool here. So I'll click text or convert to text. Once I have clicked on convert to text, convert to table or convert table to text, dialog box will appear. So how do I want to separate my text? Using paragraph marks, tabs, commas, or other. So because I want to convert my text to paragraphs so that each of these lines appear as paragraphs by themselves, I'll click on paragraph marks, separate by paragraph marks. But if I had used tabs, I'll click on tabs. I can leave convert nested tables. Then I'll click on OK. So you can see we have been able to reverse back or to revert back to our initial text. We have been able to revert back to our initial text. So that's how you convert text to table and the table to text. So let me return and undo so that I retain my text in a table. And then I'll save my work. So that's how we do conversion of text to table and table to text. We can also import a table into our document. So what is to import a table? This is loading or getting tables from other applications or from an existing file into a current Microsoft Word document. During this process, Microsoft Word converts such table into a format that is compatible with it. To import a table, you click the Insert menu, then you click on Object. Then click on Create from File tab and select Browse button to let you browse for a file that contains the table you wish to insert. Click on that file and click on Insert. And finally, click OK to insert the table. So there's a demonstration on how we can import a table into a document called MLSwap details. I don't have a table in place already, but this is the procedure that you can follow. So if we want to insert or to import a table from another program into our document, first of all, click on where you want the table that you import to be placed. For example, in our document, I can click here. Once you have clicked where you want your table to be inserted or the position, once you have clicked where you want to insert it, you click on Insert menu. And then from there, you look for Object. Here is my object or object option. So I'll click on Option tool here. And then you click on Object. But if you want to insert text from a file, you also click this option. But for me, I want to click on Object. From the Object dialog box that appears, you can scroll the program or the object type that you want to import. So I'm interested with importing Microsoft Excel worksheet. And if you have any other or another one with any other format, you select from object type. So I'll click on Microsoft Excel worksheet. So it will insert a new Microsoft Excel worksheet object into my document. And then I'll click on OK. So that's our table that we have imported. While here, you can be able to work on it as if you are working in an Excel program. Because you can see, while it is selected, you can see also the toolbar that we are having. The toolbar that we are having now contain some options that we can use to work on our Excel sheet or Excel table. All these that are listed here. So if I click anywhere in my Excel table, I can type my data the way I would have typed it in Word. I can even delete by clicking on each cell. So I can write here, for example, month. Then days of the month. I can click here and type January. Days maybe 30. February, maybe 28. etc. So if I want to insert a formula, I can do it. If I want to format my text on this table, I select the text, I click on the format of my choice. If I want to underline, I will select the text and click on U for underline. So you work on your table that you have imported the same way you would have worked on it directly from Excel or from Microsoft Office Word in your document. So you manipulate your text in your table just as we have manipulated the rest of the table. Then from there, you can click anywhere outside of the table you have imported. And you can see if you click on the table that you have imported, if for example, I double click on the table, you can see that the menu or the screen changes. If I click anywhere outside my table, you see that list of menus that were displayed disappears and we are taken back to our usual menu in Word. So that's how we import. That's how we import tables from other programs. Another activity that we can perform in our tables is to do what we call arithmetic calculations to add some figures. A function is an inbuilt predefined formula that automatically calculates results in cells quickly and simplify the task of the user developing very complex mathematical equations. An example of a function is equals to sum C1 to C4. That is, values in cell C1 to cell C4 you add. So therefore, the general features of a function are it's entered in a cell in which the result is to be displayed. It begins with an equal sign. The equal sign is followed by the name of the function. For example, sum. Then it includes arguments. For example, from cell C1 to cell C4. It includes operators. For example, opening bracket and closing bracket. Arithmetic calculations are the mathematical operations that can be performed on numerical figures entered in a table. For example, sum, product, and count. To perform arithmetic calculation, you click the cell in which you want the result to appear. And then on the layout menu, you click formula. You type the formula you want or select it from the paste function box. For example, equals to sum above. Then in the number formatting box, enter a format for the number. And you click OK. Note that If you change the reference to cells, you can update the calculation by selecting the field and then pressing functional key F9 from your keyboard. So the following is a demonstration on how to perform arithmetic calculations in the table inserted in the document called MLSwap details. So in our document, MLSwap details, let's scroll to the table that has figures whose content we wanted to compute. For example, there is this table here, which had the total column here. And you can see we have total cost for introduction to ICT. And also we have cost for operating systems. So I can click on this cell here, for example, and write overall total. And I want now to have this value or the values in this column added and inserted in this cell. So I'll click on the cell in which I want to insert a formula or carry out some computation. From there, once you have clicked where you want your total or your computation to be done, you click on layout menu and the table tools. Note, not this layout menu. It is the layout menu that will appear after you click on the table, and it is under tools or table tools. So let me click on layout. When you click on layout, you can see that we have tools that you can use for working with our table. And therefore, you go to the formula tool and you click it. So let's click on it. So formula, or you double click. Once you double click, a formula dialog box will appear. For me, I wanted to add the values in that column and the figure added below. So in my case, I want to add the values in this column from top to bottom and insert the sum here. So I'm interested with the sum. I have already clicked the cell where I want the total to be added. So in my formula dialog box, when it is proposing to me sum left. What about if I want to change? Remember, you can delete this. This is a proposal. If you want to get a certain formula, you can click, you can get it under the test function. So you can click on this button here and scroll for the function you are looking for. I want the sum, so I can scroll and get sum. Once I have the formula or the function I want, I can click under formula equals to sum. Sum what? So I want to sum all what is above the cell I've selected. So I'll write inside this bracket or inside this brace above, sum above, so that the values above my cells, above the cell I've already selected, can be added. So this means calculate the total of all the values above the sum. So what will be the format of my answer? And the number format here, I will select the number format of my choice, how I want my value to be displayed, the format. Because mine is amount of money, I can click, and money can have cents. So I'll click on 0.00 as my format. And that's all. Then I'll click on OK. So let's see whether it shall have our sum. Good. You can see we already have our sum here. So overall total is 2,300. Is it true? Let's see. If I scroll here, the first value was 800 Kenya shillings. The second value, or the second figure, is 1,500. So our formula is correct. 800 plus 1,500 equals to 2,300. What about if I wanted to get average of the two? If I wanted to get average of the two, then, for example, I can delete what I've already computed, and then I can click again on layout, then click formula. So what? So because what I want is average, I can delete what is already there, add a formula, then I can look for the function for computing average. So I can click on average. So what am I averaging? I'm averaging the values above the cell where I want to insert my average. What will be the format of my average? Because it's average for money, I can still choose 0.00, and then I click OK. So the question is, has my computation been done? Has it been done? No. After all, what average are we dividing? What are we getting? Let's try again. We click on the cell where we want our average to be inserted. Then click on formula. When we set sum above and we chose our format and clicked OK, we got our value. What about if we want to delete that and make another computation? Like now, average. What would you do? You click on the cell where you want your average to be placed, click on formula. Now, instead of sum, you can choose, or you can type average. And then average what? Average above. And then you can click OK. And you can see you have been given average. But this figure you are seeing here, it is average of how many? And after all, why are we computing average? It's average of what? So you don't just make use of formulas or functions anyhow in your table. They should have meaning. Whereas you may get a figure, but that figure may not be correct. It may not be correct. In my table, what I'm working with is the money, how much I will make on interest YCT unit. and how much do I make from operating systems unit. So what I have is total amount of money I will make. I'm not here with the average amount of money. Average how? So when you are choosing your formulas and functions, you must use those which have meaning. What exactly is it that you want? What exactly is it that you are computing? So let me undo the average. I want to retain my sum. As part of your practice, you can try other formulas and functions. So that's how we do arithmetic computation or calculation in our document and also in our table. Another task we can perform on tables is sorting. Sorting is the process of arranging the data entered within a table or a list in either ascending or descending order. To sort a list or a table, you select the list or table you want to sort. Then on the layout menu, click on Sort. From the Sort dialog box, select options for sort by, type of data to be used when sorting, amongst other options. Then click either ascending or descending order and click OK. So this is a demonstration on how we can sort some of the data that we have inserted in our table in the document called MediSwap details. If you want to sort, text in one of our tables, like in this table, if you want to have this data arranged in a certain order based on their names, for example, in terms to ICT, social responsibility, emerging trends, etc., and operating systems. So if you want the list to be organized in sorting in ascending order, whereby, for example, we begin with between, if we pick I, S, E, and O, you realize that if we were to rearrange these names of videos based on their first name, then emerging trends in ICT will be the first because it begins with the E. It will be followed by introduction I as per the alphabetic order. Then that will be followed by O, and of course, social responsibility will be the last. So if we want to sort this data in our table in a certain order, I can select the data that I want to sort. Once you click on the data you want to sort, you click on View, on Layout. You click on Layout, Menu, and the Table Tools. Then you look for Sort, this one. So I'll click on Sort. Then from the Sort dialog box, you can decide how you want to sort. Sort by column. Of course, my entire data which I've selected is a single column. So if I click on column, I will only get one column. Then sort by what? Sort by text or number or date. So I will sort by text because what I'm sorting is text. Then paragraph wise, yes, I could know another option after all. Do I need, after I do the first sorting by paragraph, then carry out another sorting of the same? Let's see, sort by column one. Already my data is in a single column. So I don't need to say any by. I'm only using a single criteria, sort by text. Type text using paragraph, ascending or descending. So because I want them to move from the lowest to the highest, that is from A to Z, that is from A to Z, I can click on ascending. Then from there, you click on OK. So you can see our data has been sorted in an ascending order. Emerging trends in IC is the first, followed by introduction to ICT, then operating systems, and lastly, social responsibility. So that's one criteria. You can use any other criteria at the sorting dialog box based on what you are sorting. Always remember to save your work. So that's how we do sorting in a table. And with that, my dear students and the rest of the learners, we have come to the end on working with the tables and performing various operations on the table. You can now proceed to part 9 of 11, in which I'll be discussing and demonstrating on how to create and update a mail-merge document, or in short, I'm going to demonstrate or teach or speak about what we call mail merging in Microsoft Word. So, congratulations for learning part 8 of 11 on tables creation and manipulation in a document. You can access other parts in word processing series, as well as other computer or ICT videos by clicking or tapping on Emily Swap ICT YouTube channel below this video. To subscribe to this channel, tap on subscribe button below this video in YouTube if it's not currently reading as subscribed. For any further correspondence, kindly write it to us through the email emilyswap@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to me. Let's meet in part 9 tutorial in this series, and God bless.